Hi friends, welcome to the NPTEL course Business Development from Start to Scale. We are in week 3 with the theme of Industry Structure and Company Analysis. In this lecture, the 15th in the series, we consider the topic of company analysis. Generally, company analysis and competitor analysis are considered to be different. People believe that we know about our company far more than about the competitor. Therefore, we should focus on the competitor rather than ourselves, is the perception. However, the company as well as the competitors need to be analyzed on a similar plane. There are 4 major areas of a company and competition that need to be analyzed. Fundamentally, we need to look at the physical and financial performance of both the company and its competitors. This conveys the performance strength and resilience. Secondly, we should analyze the vision, mission, strategy, and execution. This set conveys the competitive positioning of a company. The next in line is the set of resources, assets, network relationships, and goodwill. This set conveys the strategic strength of the company. This is in contrast with the performance strength which we have talked about earlier. The fourth set comprises leadership, management, and competency base. This conveys the growth drive of the company. The sources for this level of information need to be many. Balance sheet, analyst reports, industry data, conference calls, press meets, employee feedback, network sources, rating reports, and syndicated studies must be utilized to get this kind of strong, deep, and robust information. There are many performance indicators to analyze the performance of the company. These need to be culled out skillfully based on the product market context in an industry and for the firm. Performance indicators must be assessed both as standalone and as relative numbers. These also must be seen as physical numbers and growth rates on a multi-year basis. Some of the factors relevant for physical performance are as follows: total production and sales in units, product-wise production and sales in units, market-wise production and sales in units, total market share, product-wise market share, market-wise market share, manufacturing productivity, that is output per person, R&D productivity, that is projects per person, sales force productivity, sales per person, and availability of people skills. In terms of the financial factors, we have production and sales turnover, product-wise production and sales turnover, market-wise production and sales turnover, material costs, employee costs, R&D costs, overheads, profitability at various levels, that is gross margin, PBT, PAT, etc. Dividends and retained earnings, various financial ratios. The performance indicator database must be a continuously updated database. It has to be constantly and continuously monitored for trends. This data must be filled in for the company as well as for the competitors. Let's look at the positioning indicators. Positioning indicators may be easier to obtain for the company than for the competitors. Some positioning aspects may be derived from the performance indicators, but more incisive data collection will be certainly required. Positioning is of 2 types: the strategic positioning and secondly the tactical positioning. Strategic positioning talks about the company's long-term posture in terms of growth and sustainability. The factors related to strategic positioning are the long-range vision and mission of the company as expressed in its documents, corporate and business strategies as again expressed with the analyst calls and various other interactions, market-wise production and sales in units, different functional strategies such as R&D strategy, operations strategy, HR strategy, financial strategy, etc., capital allocation strategies, product market strategies, pricing and costing strategies, funding and investment strategies, business continuity and risk management, ESG, environmental, social, and governance strategies. All of these things are not day-to-day matters, they are long-term matters. So how the company formulates its position on each of these strategic factors gives an inkling of the strategic posture this company is taking. Tactical positioning factors are quite different. Sales and financial guidance for the year, usually given at the beginning of the year as also in every quarterly update. Product rollout plan for the year, market expansion plan for the year, vendor and dealer additions for the year, employee additions for the year, market share, product and market wise, capex for the year, profitability for the year at various levels, attrition percentage, and various financial ratios for the year. In the study of a company and its competitors, both strategic positioning and tactical positioning are critical. One doesn't preclude the other and one does not substitute for the other. Product rollout plan for the year, as an example, is extremely important to understand how the sales can be increased or the sales can be retrieved. But at the same time, the R&D strategy of the company is more important from a long-term point of view. In today's electric automobile industry, the R&D strategy is going to spell out what would be the share of the battery electrical vehicles and what would be the share of IC engine vehicles. But the same R&D strategy could even take a longer term canvas and talk about other clean energy options including hydrogen and fuel cells. But on the other hand, the product rollout plan for the year will be content with expressing the improvements that are envisaged for the year, and in case a new product has been thought about earlier, the launch of the new product. Similarly, the different functional strategies related to each of the functions will have a long-term posture as far as the strategic factors are concerned and a yearly posture as far as the tactical factors are concerned. Capital expenditure for the year ensures that the depreciation impact is well utilized and the company's facilities are kept at a high level of operation. But the funding and investment strategies for the long term are indicative of the company's strategic position. Today, Adani Group has announced an intent to raise $5 billion, which is a huge sum for an Indian company, by way of equity and long-term funds. And this indicates that the company is planning to get into strong investment intensive new energy and infrastructure segments of the industry and economic sectors related thereto. So it is a very important strategic announcement and that has ramifications for companies that are operating in this space of infrastructure and energy. In terms of the strength and resilience factors, COVID-19 has demonstrated the importance of firms building strength and resilience in their businesses and organizations, physically and financially. While performance metrics can be easily seen in quantitative terms and analyzed, while the strategies and tactics can be experienced and therefore analyzed and interpreted, it is slightly more difficult to analyze the strength and resilience factors of a company. The strengths of the company relatively again are more direct, while the strengths of the company because of its network are more difficult to evaluate. Yet we need to understand the company's strength as well as the network strengths of the company. So what are the strengths with reference to the company? R&D asset based, that is the kind of equipment, the kind of testing facilities you have for R&D are very important. If an automobile company has got simulators, crash testing equipment, sound chambers, design studio, then micro mixing capabilities in IC engines and everything, then it has got good R&D asset base. And if a company doesn't have all of these things and outsources most of these activities or short circuits some of these developments, then it has poor R&D asset strength, and that reflects on the overall strength and resilience of the company for the future. Similarly, the manufacturing asset base, that implies whether the company has A, the capacity, and B, the modularity to scale up depending upon the demand position. R&D expenditure as a percentage of sale is a very important indicator of the commitment of the company towards R&D as well as the capability of the company in terms of R&D infrastructure. This R&D expenditure could be in terms of capital expenditure as well as ongoing revenue expenditure. For a pharmaceutical company, the investments made in facilities, the investments made in stability chambers and various items like that are capital expenditure items. The expenditure made in bioequivalence studies, clinical studies on an ongoing basis for a product are in the nature of revenue expenditure. The patent estate of a company, particularly in terms of the patent applications made and patent applications granted, and the jurisdictions in which such activities have taken place, are indicative of the company's strengths. Product development pipeline, in terms of its movement across the various stages of a product, again is an important indicator of the company's strength. In respect of the pharmaceutical industry, we need to understand how many molecules are there in the in vitro study, that is in the lab scale development. How many molecules are there in vitro, that is animal study stage, and how many molecules are there in phase 1 of clinical trials, phase 2A of clinical trials, phase 2B of clinical trials, and finally phase 3 of clinical trials. Together, this provides a pipeline of future development of products. Marketing infrastructure is extremely important for every company which has got strong marketing ambitions. And marketing infrastructure may include its own retail stores, also the networking of external dealer network with its marketing plans. Cash reserves are important for any company, and COVID-19 has brought into limelight the importance of cash. Without cash, the businesses would not have survived at all in the COVID times. That's why the central banks have invested and injected huge amounts of liquidity into the corporate system as well as into the economic system. Proprietary know-how, which is slightly different from the patent estate, is also an important aspect of company strength. Every company will have a particular method of developing a product, a particular development of transferring the technology, and a particular development capability on the shop floor. All of these things constitute the proprietary know-how and the know-why of the company, and that is very unique to the company. Vertical integration is another facet of the company's strengths. That vertical integration could be backward in terms of the component manufacture as well as the materials that are required for components. The forward vertical integration could be in terms of outbound logistics, outbound distribution, as well as the dealer and channel network. And finally, we come to the operational and financial resilience that is indicated, for example, by the break-even point. The lower the break-even point of a company, the higher is the ability of the company to withstand the vicissitudes of business and economic cycles. Similarly, the various financial parameters, that is the inventory turns, the debt servicing ratio, are indicative of the financial resilience of the company. The network strengths again are many: vendor relationships, dealer relationships, strategic alliances, partnerships and joint ventures, access to material sources, revenue sharing arrangements, relationships with the investors, relationships with the government bodies, parent and co-company relationships, attorney relationships, and relationships with industry bodies are indicative of the positioning of the company in the overall network, which helps the company achieve its goal. It is no longer sufficient to build only company strengths internally. We need to build strengths of the company with reference to the external network strengths in the overall economic ecosystem. And this is an important fact that is often ignored by the analysts of company and corporate as well as competitor information. The fourth set of factors relates to leadership and competency factors. Leadership is the fountainhead of growth. Progressive leadership makes an organization a vibrant meritocracy. It encourages development of competencies. This in turn helps a company gain and sustain competitive advantage. What are the leadership strengths? Leadership strengths are expressed in terms of the leadership track record and potential. The track record of the board of directors and its potential. If a board has a diverse set of leaders and those leaders are seen to contribute to the board deliberations, then we can say that the company has got good board oversight. That's why when Harsh Mariwala wanted to professionalize the board or induct top level leaders into the board, he thought about good diversity of capabilities, multiple industry backgrounds, multiple functional strengths, so that the board could be not only eminent but also fully equipped to undertake the task of providing holistic advice for the company. So, board track record and potential are important parameters. Most companies today undertake an evaluation of the board as well as the individual directors to make sure that the boards are fulfilling the higher order vision that is set for the boards. The managing director is usually a part of the board. But apart from the managing director, the entire CXO team, that is Chief Commercial Officer, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Scientific Officer, and so on, constitute the total leadership team, and their track record and potential are extremely important. Breadth and depth of management, that is, it is not sufficient to have strong top level leadership but not have strong middle level leadership, because that provides the succession pipeline. In many companies, you have a few leaders at the top and lots of operating people, and there is really a huge gap in the middle. In some other companies, you may have a strong or even over bloated middle, but very weak top level leadership and very constrained operating executive manpower. So this is again not to be encouraged. So breadth and depth of management is important. All functions should be equally balanced in terms of the breadth and depth. Then the skill levels of employees. In an information technology company, the skill levels of employees need to be calibrated every 6 months because the technology is changing continuously. Planning, execution, and monitoring skills are very important. For an organization to move forward in a competitive manner, there must not only be plans, but a methodology and capability to evaluate the plans based on the metrics, based on the stage gates, and course correct as required. Another important characteristic of well run companies is unity of values and alignment of purpose. Everybody in the company should share the same purpose, should be aligned with the company's vision and goals. And more fundamentally, as I discussed also in the earlier lecture, values are very important. The entire organization must be rallying around core values of the company. The other important factor is organizational structure and strategy match. You will see many times companies expressing lofty vision and high order strategies. But when you look at the organization, you will find that the organization is not equipped in terms of people to execute the strategy. In any company, in any growth paradigm, people come first, facilities come next, and then only the results come. Therefore, importance of people, which means importance of organizational structure, being in alignment with strategy, needs to be taken care of. The other leadership strength is agility, adaptability, and flexibility. While being systemically prudent and while being systematic and policy driven, companies also need to be agile, should be adaptable to changes, and have flexibility to course correct as required. And finally, the leadership strengths are in terms of the core competencies. When you look at Apple, the core competencies of the erstwhile chief executive Steve Jobs are very much known. Similarly, the core competencies of the current CEO Tim Cook are also very well known. Every company has got leaders whose core competencies bring that extra capability to the organizations. That needs to be understood very well. So, if a company brings in leaders who have this extra level of capability, then we in the company must be very thoughtful of this development and equip ourselves suitably. Similarly, we as a company could be proactive in terms of bringing in the best possible leadership and being ahead of the competition. Then, what are the competency strengths? That is, strengths which are available in the organization as a whole and with individuals. These factors are the functional depth and breadth. That is, you must understand completely about your function, your business domain, and the relationship between the functionality and the business domain. Then the R&D competencies, the manufacturing competencies, the marketing competencies, the financial competencies, the digital competencies, and various other functional competencies. An organization's competency set must include collaboration strengths. An ability to collaborate internally and externally is very much important for a company to be successful on a standalone basis, as also in relation with the external environment. Ownership by the employees of the various initiatives of the company is also an important determinant of the competency strengths in an organization. Apart from all of these things, there will be very specific and very special core competencies for certain companies, and they need to be taken care of. In the analysis, as C.K. Prahalad postulated, a company's core competencies fetch for the company sustainable competitive advantage. Now let's look at the analysis of a company to bring us into focus on deployment of these kinds of developments. But the analysis of the company cannot straight away start with the 4 sets of indicators that I have mentioned earlier. There is no point in taking a balance sheet and trying to take all the data points and start comparing. More fundamental to that is to have a broad brush analysis of the company. What is this company doing in the overall? Where is the company positioned in the industry and in the global markets? And where does the company want to proceed? A broad brush understanding, what we may call a helicopter view of the company's vision, strategy, and execution, as well as the structure, are required before you go very deep into the individual performance factors or strategic strength factors, resilience factors, leadership factors, and so on. So this is a company analysis of Sudarshan Chemicals, one of the leading companies in the Indian chemical industry. This is an IIT Madras study project as part of my MBA course conducted in the Department of Management Studies, Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. So what is the company? The company Sudarshan Chemicals is a leading color and pigment manufacturer. More than 60 years of experience in the business, a global world-class color and chemical solution provider with a focus on sustainable results. And it has a track record of creating value for the stakeholders. It has an exciting and vibrant performance-driven work environment. When you read about the company, you get a fair idea of its industry, its product characteristics, its heritage, its legacy, and its global positioning. First, we have to study the mission, vision, values of the company. The mission of this company to be a world-class global color solution provider with an innovative and vibrant culture. It is not merely the pigment that is sought to be provided, it is the pigment with the coloring capability. That's the mission. The vision is to be amongst the top 3 pigment players in the world. So a global understanding is there and a global aspiration is there. And the third is the set of values. Seva means service. Courage, commitment, passion, respect, and trust. These are the values of the company. How has been the performance of the company? It is not too small a company, nor is it too large a company. It has a turnover of 1864 crores in rupees, a PBIT of 190 crores, that means 10% profit margin. Market capitalization is twice that of the sales at rupees 3,600 crores approximately. Point to be noted, it is the world's 4th largest producer of pigments. It has widened its base from classical pigments to high performance pigments and cosmetics. That's the trend of the company. So how was the decades journey? And this is as told by Sudarshan. From being a manufacturer of pigment agrochemical master batches in 2011, we have traversed a journey to be a focused pigment player. From a 30% domestic market share in 2011 to capturing around 35% in 2021. We have given our best to strengthen our position year on year. That means each year it has gained a market share percentage of 1% in a highly competed chemical industry. During the decade, we have climbed from being amongst the top 20 pigment players in 2011 to becoming the fourth largest pigment producer globally, and that strategically reinforced the brand position. Similarly, from one R&D lab in India to two labs in India and Germany, Sudarshan has redefined its innovation quotient to build a robust product portfolio. From sourcing 0% renewable energy in 2011 to 20% in 2021, the company has progressed consistently in the sustainability journey. And the idea is to make the world a better place for the stakeholders to the extent an individual company can do. Similarly, from an overall product market perspective, from being a classical pigment manufacturer, the company has widened its base to include high performance and cosmetics product range. So this is the decades journey as told by Sudarshan. What are the core values? Service, courage, commitment and passion, respect and trust. The products offered are organic pigments, inorganic pigments, effect pigments. So what is the product range comprising of? Every company has its branded name. Sudha Perm, Sudha Fine, Sudha Fast, Sudha Text and so on. So the letters Sudha are the prefixes for all the types of the products, and that is the corporate brand weaving itself into the product brands. There are pigments for high performance with technical benefits for most demanding plastic and coating applications. Then Sudafine is easy to use terrain pigments. This is a complementary range of high pigment content, water-based, resin-free, paste in easy to use terrain form for decorative paints and other applications. Sudafast is comprise medium performance pigments, consistently high quality range of medium performance organic pigments, increasing options available for coloration. Sudatex or pigments dispersions for textiles, a carefully selected range of concentrated water-based dispersions ideal for the surface and thorough coloration of textiles. Some are therefore for conventional painting applications, some are there for textile applications. Then you have coloring pigments, well-designed range of organic pigments that provide the best combination of quality, value and easy to use deployment. Then you have got pearlescent pigments, a full range of general purpose high performance pigments and effect pigments. They provide the color, luster and sparkling effect. They enhance the aesthetic appeal of plastics, coatings and inks. Sudalur is a pigment range for durable color. These are inorganic pigments. They provide much deeper color, durability and coverage for the most demanding applications. And finally, pearlescent pigments called sumikos, which are microcrystalline platelets coated with metal oxides. They provide iridescent luster, bronze and glitter that create new illusions in color for cosmetic applications. So you can see that from basic pigments to lustrous and offbeat pigments, the company has everything. So when you have large number of products, you need to also understand the profitability or the relative market profitability, relative market share of those products. In this case, star products are the organic pigments. Cash cows are the earlier established inorganic pigments. They have funded the growth of the inorganic pigments range as well as the new organic pigments range. Question mark, nano pigments, and pets or underdogs, effect pigments. This is the grouping of the various products. If you try to apply the Porter's five forces theory, you will find that the bargaining power of buyers is relatively high because there are many players in competition with the local players, and unfortunately they get away with using substandard ingredients, even lead-based pigments. The options for buyers in the low end are many, but they are not safe. Yet, for cost reasons, they sustain in the marketplace. For high value items, of course, the international players with specification support are available as good customers, loyal customers for Sudarshan. What is the bargaining power of suppliers? It is moderate because Sudarshan is getting into downward or backward integration model, making its own raw materials. Therefore, it can control the impact from the suppliers. The threat of new entrants is moderate because the industry is well established and supported by a wide network of established players. Environmental regulations are tough, and a new player would find it difficult to enter this market with the kind of environmental capability that the existing players such as Sudarshan have established. Threat of substitutes again is moderate. Color is an integral part of any object. It is impossible to imagine a world where color is absent. These are an essential part of life. Sudarshan is already into the all the four segments of the color industry: organic, inorganic, nano, and effect pigments. But the industrial rivalry is very high because the company has moved into the global arena, including Germany, where established strong players such as Clariant and BASF have their bases. It has established, no doubt, as a significant player by volume, but it needs to diversify its country mix. Sudarshan can buy out in this process smaller global players given this strong cash rich position and reduce the intensity of industry rivalry. So, this is the application of the five forces. It tells the company as to what to do, what the company should be wary of. The strategic focus for growth is in terms of the focus area of business pigments, that is the core. But the company also must integrate itself vertically into various segments of the pigment so that its product position is unassailable and the core is defended and grown, but a new core is brought in through these emerging pigments. Every product must serve multiple customers and there must be global business development. That is the strategic focus for growth of this company. Where does the competitive advantage for Sudarshan Chemicals come from? It comes from the product consistency and process control at the very base. 800 plus tests and 4000 plus specifications mark the product manufacturing portfolio. There is also very reliable technical information that is justified nationally and globally. All the laboratories are certified by the National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories. The company is known for its reliable service. It is recognized for operational excellence in supply chain management. When you are operating in global markets, you have to be very cognizant of the timely supplies. And finally, environmental and occupational health. The safety of plant operatives is uppermost in the management's mindset. So the strategic focus is threefold. One, investing for growth. The company is close to commissioning capex projects of 600 crores, which are crucial for the growth journey ahead. It is also poised towards world-class manufacturing, integration transformation across productivity, quality, including change management is attempted, along with safety and others. It is invested in renewable energy. A solar power plant with a capacity of 20 megawatt hour power and cost saving of rupees 2 crores has already been integrated into the energy system of the company. The company is poised towards $1 billion turnover. Indian economy has opened up in the 1990s and has seen consistent growth. It is probably the highest GDP growth country in the world today, perhaps surpassing even China. Globalization of the Indian economy is not relenting a bit. It is going to only accelerate. The per capita consumption levels of paints, inks, and other consumer markets which use the pigments of the company are very low compared to the global peers. The global market are attractive, but they are also very competitive. Sudarshan has entered into the global markets only recently, over the last decade. Therefore, there is a major opportunity for the company, and it is hoped that the learning phase of getting into the global market has been fruitfully utilized. And the fourth is the technology. One negative factor about the company is that it is not a great risk taker in terms of new technology adoption. It has been developing its technologies through a careful blend of organic and some bought out technologies, but the aggression of the technology is nothing to write home about in this company. Therefore, one may say that there is a lack of disruptive technology development and there is a lot of reliance on overseas partners. If only a company comes in with strong technological edge, it is likely that Sudarshan Chemicals could be disrupted. It is a risk for the business which the company's promoters and leadership must be cognizant of. This is as far as Sudarshan Chemicals is concerned at a helicopter level. You need to do this kind of analysis for any company you would like to analyze in depth, because understanding the overall company, its overall strategy, overall structure, the vision and mission, and its positioning in the global industry is important. The technology capabilities, the network relationships it has, the level of sales, the capability in terms of profitability, all of these things must be understood. But once this preliminary analysis is carried out to get an overall perception and appreciation of the company, the analyst must undertake a detailed multi-factor analysis, and that alone will bring out the capabilities of the company in true depth. But if you do not conduct the overall analysis as we have done so far, it is likely that you will be searching for needles in the haystack. Now, having conducted a broader analysis of the company, you know where the company is moving towards and how the company is moving towards that goal, and then take an appropriate measurement of its various metrics. So the four things which you need to analyze are the physical and financial performance metrics, the strategic and tactical positioning indicators, the strength and resilience factors, and the leadership and competency strengths. In the case of Sudarshan, for example, you will compare the physical and financial performance of Sudarshan with various other chemical companies, including the number one and number two pigment manufacturers, and what is the gap between the second pigment manufacturer and Sudarshan Chemical, and how soon this gap can be bridged. Similarly, the strategic and tactical positioning indicators could be looked at the real strategic plan that has been rolled out, and to what extent the company has resources to execute on the strategic plan. The strength and resilience factors would include the kind of R&D personnel that are there, the kind of technical leaders and professional leaders that the company has, the nature of the board, and things like that. And the leadership and competency strengths would involve understanding the leadership track record in terms of managing the growth, planning for the growth, and executing for the growth. Once all these sets of factors which I have outlined, in each case for the four types of metrics, that is physical and financial, strategic and tactical, strength and resilience, leadership and competency, I have outlined 80 factors which need to be taken care of. And if those 80 factors are brought out and comparatively analyzed, the position of the company will be well understood. So will the position of the competitors be understood. So this is the overall perspective on company and competitor analysis. So with this, we come to the end of this lecture. I thank you for your attention. Hope to see you in the next week's lectures.